Hello everyone, welcome back. Hopefully you all had a good weekend. There is some Division 2 stuff that I do want to cover. I'll be able to hopefully get the video out today because it does relate to some changes coming tomorrow. I would have covered it towards the back end of last week, but it was the Jubilee here in the UK, so I kind of was busy for like 4 days. I had like 4 days off, so I was just busy doing stuff and I haven't got round to it, but I will make that video. I actually was in the process of making that video when this article came up from Tom Henderson. Tom Henderson is what you would consider an industry inside leaker, right? He's got a lot of great sources. He's always pretty on point. And today he's done this article saying the Division Heartland is set to have 4 modes. I think my understanding was only meant to have 2, crossplay and more via @tryhard guides. And we're going to go over this article here and see what the Division Heartland has to offer. And it should be coming out, I believe, soon, even though we've not heard much. So yeah, let's get into this article and let's see what's going on with the Division Heartland. Alright, so here we go. The Division Heartland to feature 4 game modes, crossplay and more. The Division Heartland will feature a total of 4 game modes according to sources. None of this is official, but as I said, Tom Henderson is a well-recognised industry insider who rarely gets stuff wrong. If he's talking about something, then you want to pay attention, basically. So let's go over here. Several months ago, I revealed in an exclusive X-Fire article some key details on the Division Heartland. I did actually go over that X-Fire article, and I'd highly recommend you go back a couple of months ago and check out that if you don't already. Details included 2 game modes, the map, base of operations, and more. Sources have since provided additional key details on the game, including that the game will now have 4 modes instead of 2. We already know of these 2 modes, and 1 mode being named Excursion, the other named Storm. Here's a brief overview of all 4 modes coming to the Division Heartland. So the first 2 we already know about, but we'll go over them anyway. Excursion, which was previously leaked as Expedition, is a PvE mode that is aimed to get you prepared for Storm. In this mode, players need to scavenge, loot, explore and survive against enemy AI with the objective of extracting from the map via helicopter. Several people had implied that Excursion is essentially the tutorial mode of Storm, where players can get familiar with the map and mode's concept before going against other players. And that was my understanding of it as well. We did actually have a leak of footage which was from the Excursion mode. I believe that footage may even still be available. I think it might be on, is it Bilibilla or Bilibili? I can't remember the name of the website. I think it's like a Japanese or a Chinese or Korean website. I'm not sure what it is, but it might still be available on there. And this is what you would consider sort of survival, very much so, with just the PvE aspect. Storm. So Storm seems to be Heartland's flagship game mode that is PvE, or as I would say, PvE-VP. Just like with Excursion, players need to scavenge, loot, explore and survive. But of course, unlike Excursion, players need to fight against other players as well as AI. Unlike the majority of Battle Royale and extraction-based games, Storm is a little different in the sense that the gas expands from random points in the map, making each game different and challenging. Now, this is probably one of my favourite parts that I saw about this, because my concern with Heartland was that it was going to be a very traditional, almost like a Battle Royale survival game, right? And I didn't want it to be, I at least needed to have some unique features. And Storm is a very unique feature, which means that it's not going to be like a ring that comes in, right? It's basically a cloud that just goes around the map randomly. And so every game does feel different. You're not quite sure where it's going to go or where you can or cannot go during that game. My understanding is, though, that if players don't extract before a certain period of time, then it basically becomes King of the Hill, where you have to get to a certain location and it's the last survivor, the last team to extract, basically. That's my understanding of it. They don't mention that here, but that is my understanding of it. Nightfall. So Nightfall is the third Heartland mode that is an objective-based PvE mode. Just like with Storm, players need to loot up, survive and extract to your base of operations. Nightfall is a little different though, with added layers to increase the difficulty of the mode having been added. The mode requires players to complete objectives throughout their playthrough. Some of these objectives include deploying beacons, tracking down targets and collecting agent data. Unlike Storm, players cannot extract with a helicopter and instead need to extract via an extraction point on foot at the edge of the map. The catch: players cannot extract from Silver Creek at nightfall and need to survive the night against AI enemies called vultures once the sun goes down. So this is very much going to be that pinnacle kind of PvE mode, where Excursion is very much going to be that tutorial where you learn the map, you learn how stuff works, and then you go into one of these other kind of modes. It looks to be Storm is the flagship PvP mode, Nightfall being the flagship PvE mode. And I have to admit, I do like the sound of this, where you have to survive the night before you're able to actually get out. It's a little bit different to how survival works in the Division 1, but it does have that survival-esque mode. And what I'm really glad about more than anything else is when we saw the footage of Heartland, it feels like an eternity ago now. That was in the day. And my concern was that there weren't going to be any of a kind of, there weren't going to be a night cycle, there weren't going to be, you know, too much environmental changes, snow and all that sort of stuff. But this kind of confirms here that there is going to be a night part. There is going to be a mode where you are going to have that night going into day cycle, and I like that. And I think the game needed that. I think when we had just Excursion and Storm, my concern was that it was just not enough. So Nightfall sounds cool. We then have Hunt. Not much is currently known about Hunt, but sources have suggested this mode is more PvP based. Presumably, players will need to kill one another without having to deal with AI. So this is just going to be straight PvP mode. Makes sense. It does make sense, because I know that there is going to be a hardcore PvP audience that maybe wouldn't like to have the AI that you're going to get from the Storm mode, and would prefer something more like a team deathmatch kind of situation, which it sounds like Hunt is more geared towards that. In addition to these new modes, sources have confirmed several other key details, including that the Division Heartland will feature crossplay and is currently in active testing. In addition, the game has added a huge overhaul to the likes of its inventory and gear system, which has made the system more familiar to the Division players. Interesting. So what this started out as was almost like Apex Legends, where there was 3 different classes. There was like Survivalist and the other 2 classes, I can't remember the name of them. But you had 3 classes. You're only allowed to have 1 class per team, and obviously you'd have 3 people per team. So each person had to have a class, very much like how Apex Legends works, where you can only have 1 of each character per team. It sounds and also these were classes, right? You couldn't go out and find, like, you know, a piece of gear that had a different talent on, or whatever the case may be. There wasn't really talents as such. They were all kind of already there, right? There wasn't any kind of random rolls or any RNG involved with that kind of stuff, apart from the quality of the gear that you pick up. Like a Battle Royale would be, where you would pick up different qualities depending on where you are, etc. This to me sounds more like they're moving towards the gear system used in the Division or the Division 2, where maybe you are picking up random rolled stuff and there is going to be more stats to it. We'll have to wait and see. It's interesting for sure. Sources have provided, under the request of anonymity, footage and images of the Division Heartland, and from my own impressions, it does appear that the game is near completion. Ubisoft has already pushed back Heartland's release several times, but it's expected that the game will release by the end of the year. We should be hearing of the game soon, possibly during a Ubisoft showcase, which is expected in the coming months, or it could be shown at this year's Xbox E3 presentation. So it looks to be as though Tom Henderson is expecting this release in the next 6 months. And I'm excited for that. I am really excited that I would love to be able to get this footage and these images that Tom has been able to see to show just what this game is all about. But for me, more than anything, I really want to see what this gear system is all about. I want to see what this Hunt mode is about. For me, the Nightfall mode is the one that really is capturing me. I have become a PvE player because of the Division 2. I'm hoping the Division Heartland brings out that PvP in me, which I had in the Division 1. For any of you guys who have been watching me since the Division 1, I played a ton of Last Stand. That's pretty much all I played was Last Stand. I didn't play a lot of PvE content, whereas the Division 2 has pushed me towards the PvE content, because the PvE content for me personally is better than the Division 1, but also because the PvP content in Division 2 just isn't good at all, whereas I think in Division 1 it was better, it was a lot more fun anyway. And so hopefully this game, from the sounds of it, is going to appeal to everyone. It's going to appeal to the people that want PvE only, people who want PvP only, but if you want a mixture of both, there are going to be modes there that can do both. And I'm excited for it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. Let me know if you're excited for the Division Heartland. I really am, and I'm going to be checking out every single place that I can find possible to see if I can get a hold of this footage and make a video for you guys. Until then, Epic out.